Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be watching TikTok horror stories. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and please follow all the creators. Thank you for tuning in and feel free to share your scary experiences in the comments. Now let's dive in.
Okay, I've been watching all these stories and these people of things that's happened to them that they can't explain. So I'm here to tell you my story, okay? I have epilepsy. I've had it since I was 25 years old. I'm 47 years old now. But I have the type that is the grand mal seizures. It's bad. When it happens, it happens. I do kind of know that it's coming on, but then again, I don't. So back up a year and a half ago, I'm at home. My husband's not home yet. I tell my daughter that was there, I was like, I don't feel good. Something's kind of off, not right. I'm standing on my porch. Next thing I know, I fall over into the landscape, crunch the landscape down, and I guess pass out. So I come to, my daughter helps me up. I'm like, oh, something's not all right. I'm calling my friend who's a nurse and call my husband, like, you got to come home. Get to the couch, have a seizure. And so from this point on, after I went to the couch, it's kind of, it's blurry, because if you have epilepsy or know someone that has epilepsy, after you have a seizure, even before, during, after, you don't know who you are, your head's swimmy, you're confused. I have the type that I wake up crying sometimes. Anyway, so they said the seizure went on for 20 minutes. I do remember coming to, I'm in the EMS. I don't know what they'd given me because they thought it was allergic reaction. This story goes on, but I started having signs of a stroke because I ended up having Todd's paralysis, which can come sometimes to people who have really bad seizures. So I had all that. So they thought I had a stroke. So the wheels are turning. We have to hurry up. We have to get her somewhere. So I'm inside the ambulance, laying on the gurney or whatever, and I'm out of it, but yet I'm not out of it because I knew I was in the ambulance. I could hear my husband outside the door. I could hear the EMS women talking. There were two men. There was a paramedic woman and an EMS woman. They're talking and they're saying, where should we take her? What hospital? You know, should we flight out something? You know, we have so long because if she's having a stroke, we have limited time to take her to get the stroke team involved. As I'm laying in there, I'm like, I had this feeling of like, why are there other people in here with me? I couldn't see them. They weren't talking to me, but I had the feeling. Keep in mind, I am very intuitive. And I could read somebody. I can tell them, you know, you're lying, you know, things like that. But I'm laying there, and to the left of me was the presence of a lady. She was little, petite, solid white hair, about to hear, very nice. She wasn't talking to me, but I could tell the feeling that she was giving me was, it's fine. You're going to be fine. It's okay. Just wait and let them make the decision. You're going to be fine. Okay, so I'm like, I cannot believe. In my head, I'm thinking, I cannot wait to tell my husband, who I could hear him outside. And I was talking to whoever wasn't in the ambulance with me, like, where am I at? Where am I going? Why are you in here? You know, I kept saying that, like, why are you in here with me? Why are you in here with me? And I'm thinking in my head, like, I cannot wait to tell my husband that they've had other people riding here with me. This bill is going to be $1 million, and there's a woman riding in here with me. This must be some kind of pickup. That's what I'm thinking. Like, have they called all the people who needed to go to a different county hospital and said, come to her house? She's going to take a. That's what I'm thinking. Okay, it sounds off the chain, I know, but that's what I'm thinking in my head. And I started smelling. I'm like, the ambulance is on fire. I was like, no, it's not fire. It's cigarettes. Somebody's in here smoking a cigarette. This is insane. What kind of service do we have going on here? The whole time I'm like, my hands are strapped down in case I have a seizure again. You know, I can't move. They're outside talking. I can hear my husband. I could hear all these people. It probably wasn't as long as I thought it was, but in my head, I'm like, this is taking forever. So I could feel behind me a gentleman. And honestly, this guy smelled like smoke so bad because it was smelling up the whole EMS. And I'm like, couldn't see him, but I could feel his presence behind me. He wasn't mean. He wasn't said anything like that. He was more like aggravated, like, come on, we gotta go, we gotta go. And more almost like representing me, like, we gotta go, we gotta go. But yet my feeling is towards him was like, here's somebody else that's catching a ride up there. What's he going for? Because he smelled like a big cigarette. I'm thinking, you should have changed your clothes. And I kept talking about clothes, and the EMS girl would say, you're fine, because she was responding to me when I was talking to just the general of who all I thought was in the EMS. Okay. He smelled like smoke. So much that he was such a heavy smoker in my state of whatever, that I felt like his fingers, you know, somebody that smokes a lot, their fingers are just stained with nicotine smell. So he was kind of giving off the impression to me inside there of, We got to go, we got to go, we got to go. She's giving off the impression to me how she was making me feel of, it's fine, you're going to be fine, we will get there, everything's going to be okay, we've got good, but both of them were giving me the reassurance of like these people that are with you, that are driving you, they're great people, they're going to be, because I'm saying out loud, like, why are these people in here? Like I said, the paramedics answer me like, oh, honey, it's fine, you're fine. They're dismissing all this stuff. I get there to the hospital. I'm out of it. I kept thinking, just close your eyes and you will not feel or know that there's other people riding here with you. It won't make you mad. But by gosh, whenever you get to the hospital, you tell your husband that they had other people riding with you and you're not going to pay for the whole bill. They're going to split the bill. That is what I'm thinking. That is what I'm feeling. 100%. I would argue with somebody right now about that. I know is what happened. So I get there to the hospital. They get me out. A big team comes out because it's a stroke. That's what they think. It's a stroke. They're taking me to get a CT scan in my head. They got to stop everything. They're doing all the medicine, all the stuff that you have to do. So I get to where they take me to do all that, and the nurse is talking to me. They need me to transfer from the gurney to the bed. Nothing's broke. I'm just can't move this side, okay, because of the Todd's paralysis. So when I set up, kind of, and when they're pulling me, setting up, I look, there's a girl in the corner of the CT room or this triage room where all these people are fastly working on me with a dog. And I'm like, where have they taken me? They've taken, first of all, I rode with a crowd full of people, like on a share bus or something. And now I get to this hospital and they have a little girl in here with a dog. What is this? This is, and again, in my head, I'm like, what is she doing in here? What's wrong with her? And the dog is barking nonstop. And I remember telling the nurse, like, why is that dog barking? Well, honey, I don't know what you're talking about. She's dismissing the whole thing. Whatever. I do my CT scan. Anyway, stayed on ICU for a week. People in there, everybody that came in there, I would tell them the story. Everybody that came in there, and they're like, okay, Julie, you just had a lot of medicine. No, really, I didn't. So, back up, I get home. The paramedic reaches out to me. She's like, hey, just checking on you because we're friends. This is what we put down at what it was. I told her what they did at the hospital, Todd's paralysis. And she said, I can't help but keep going back to what you were saying, who was with you. And I'm like, yeah. Why did you let him ride? I started digging into it. She said, I want you to know that both myself and the EMS, the lady that was driving, there was two of them. She said, you described both of our parents, her dad and my mom, to a T. We were too afraid to tell you anything or say anything because we weren't really sure ourselves because they both have passed away. That's all I'm going to say. I can't explain it. I don't know what happened. I know that they gave me a calm feeling. I don't know. What are your thoughts? What do you think happened? What was going on? Let me know what you think. Comment below.
For the sake of the story, we're going to call her Layla. So a couple years ago, Layla and about 5 or 6 of her friends were hanging out. They were all sitting at a bar just having drinks when out of nowhere the topic of scary stories came up. Each one of them started to share their scary experiences, just trying to freak the other out. Being that Layla was one of the ones that was the most invested in the stories and the more religious ones, she caught the attention of one of her friends. Now, this particular friend happened to be male and of Arab and Islam background, but what Layla didn't know was that this friend practiced the very dark occult or dark magic. He told her to close her eyes to count to 5 along with everyone else. Being that Leslie was intrigued, as she was closing her eyes, she kind of slowly peeked them open just to see what he was doing. When she did so, she saw that he was literally morphing into like a blonde man. She sat there shocked with her eyes closed, thinking that her eyes were just probably playing tricks on her. She tried to explain it away. About 10 seconds later, he told Layla and the rest of them to open their eyes. When they did so, they literally saw Layla's brother sitting there before them. Everyone started screaming and crying. They were terrified. And for whatever reason, Layla was in this trance where she started cursing at everyone in a different language. One of her friends ended up standing up and like praying over her. This is what ended up getting her to snap out of her trance. The friend, the one that morphed, was nowhere to be found. That was actually the last time she ever hung out with any of them. Till this day, she says that the guy that morphed will still spy on her in her dreams, and she'll still have dreams about her, and she knows that he keeps close tabs on her.
This scary story and the events that followed actually drove a family out of their home. So this girl wants to remain anonymous and we're going to call her Sarah. In January of 2016, Sarah's parents had just bought in this cute little house right off the highway. Sarah was around 18 years old at this time. The house was only about 1,100 square feet. She said that the house gave really creepy vibes, but the weirdest thing about the house was the hallway. The hallway was long and it scaled almost the entirety of the house. Her bedroom was at the end of the hallway with a bathroom on the right side and her parents' room off to the left. One day, Sarah has her boyfriend over, and as she wakes up at like 3:40 in the morning for absolutely no reason, and she has to go to the bathroom. She said that her parents always kept the house pitch black, no lights on whatsoever. So the way that she explained this is immediately right outside of her bedroom door was the bathroom. So she literally walks out of her bedroom. She goes right into the bathroom and there's no incident. But that all changes when she leaves the bathroom. She said that she went to walk out of the bathroom and she shifts towards her bedroom, when all of a sudden she got this crazy feeling that there was definitely someone at the end of the hallway watching her. She could feel it immensely. Then gets scared, obviously, so she shuts the bathroom light off and she runs into her room, which is, again, right next to the bathroom. So she goes out of the bathroom, she gets in her room, she slams the door shut, and all of a sudden she hears this thud right against her bedroom door. The creepiest thing about this is she knew exactly what that thud sounded like, and that sounded like someone was running behind her, chasing her into her bedroom, and when she shut the door, someone had slammed against the door. She said that the worst part about this was knowing what that sound was. Like, that just creeped her out so much. She could not believe what she had just heard and felt. So she, at this point, is just standing by the door, and she's in absolute shock, and her boyfriend is still sleeping on the bed. She's still standing up when all of a sudden she hears her boyfriend whisper, "Someone's here." Her stomach then drops and she goes, "What?" He doesn't answer her. She then repeats it 4 times. "What? What?" But he's not answering her. So she goes over to him. She leans over him to try to hear him better and realizes her boyfriend is dead asleep. Ugh, no. No, 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 no. She actually said that the feeling of being watched never left her the entire time that she lived there. And she said that she will never forget the dread of that night. And another creepy thing is that she actually moved out 3 months later because she just couldn't take it anymore. And then 3 years later, her parents' experiences there drove them out of the house, and that house is still vacant to this day. Guys, protect yourself. If you feel like something is in your house or something is wrong, listen to your intuition. This did not sound good at all, and I can only imagine what her parents' experiences were. I am going to email her back and ask if maybe she can share some of those experiences, but for now, that is it, guys. And just so you guys are aware, my last post did get a violation. I guess I need to be more choosy with my words because that's crazy, and so it's probably going to restrict my other videos. So this video is probably going to not show up on your FYP, but if you want to share it, then that would help. But either way, my name is Kaisa. I give true scary stories every single night. There is an email in my bio, and it is specifically for scary story submissions. They have to be true. So keep sending me your scary stories. I absolutely love it, you guys, and everyone who has supported me thus far. I really, really appreciate it. I love you guys so much. Thank you for the support, and I will see you guys in the next one. Have a spooky night. Merry Christmas.
This one is the definition of a spooky story. I am back with another spooky story. We're gonna call the person who submitted this story Elsa. So when Elsa was in the 4th grade, she had this friend. They were besties. She was loving and this bubbly girl. And according to Elsa, her bestie had no problems in life. Everything was okay with her in their friendship until this one morning. So this one morning, they were in class and they were talking and the girl just collapsed out of nowhere. Again, this has never happened before. So teachers came rushing, trying to help her, trying to wake her up. However, she wasn't waking up. She looked as if she was asleep as she was still breathing. 30 or 45 minutes later, she wakes up. And when she woke up, she was in fear, panicking, and everyone around her is confused. So much so that she started to scare Elsa. Eventually, she calmed down and was able to express what was going on. The best friend said that she saw a young girl sitting next to Elsa, staring at her. At this point, Elsa is full on panicking. Her heart drops. Because what? And at that point, Elsa understood that somebody had sent something to go after her. Anyway, her best friend winds up getting sent home. Now fast forward to the following day. She comes back to school, everything is normal. She seems like she's back to her regular self. Everything was going great until after school. Everybody was outside, they were playing, and she just fell down. This time, she didn't faint, she just fell, and her legs, she just couldn't move her legs. Her lower body was pinned to the ground while she had full mobility with her upper half. Elsa runs to the teachers to go get help, and one of the teachers managed to pick her up, and she was taken to the principal's office. And they started questioning her, like, what is going on? And the girl, the bestie, was afraid to answer. She said that there's a little girl haunting her, standing next to her, telling her not to answer the principal's questions. The only thing that she revealed was that the little girl was the one that was pinning her feet to the ground. That is why she couldn't move her legs. That's the only thing she said, and then she remained quiet for the remaining of the time until her mother came and picked her up. The next day in the assembly, she went up and she just looked exhausted. She started telling everyone what happened to her the moment she got home. She said she got home, got started on her homework, and went outside to play with some of her friends. All of a sudden, the little girl came back, but this time, she was angry. She looked so upset, and this little girl stared at her and reached out to her as if she was trying to touch her. And suddenly, she felt her heart being pulled out, and then once again, she collapsed. And when she woke up to her mother crying. She didn't understand why her mother was crying, but when she looked down, she saw her body laying on the floor, and she realized that she was in spirit form. She had left her body, and the little girl that was haunting her was still there. And this little girl is staring back. As she's staring at her, the little girl is smiling. Then she starts crying and weeping like she doesn't understand what is going on. And the little girl that was haunting her lifted her soul because she is now no longer in flesh. She took her up to the clouds and made a star. And down she could see the village from up where she was, but no one could see her. Then she dropped her soul down to earth, to which she went back into her body. And when she opened her eyes, her mom was happy. Then her mother told her that she in fact stopped breathing and moving, so she thought that she was unalived. She also said that the little girl that was haunting her kept on mentioning Elsa specifically, as the spirit wanted her to harm Elsa, and she was pissed because she refused to hurt her best friend. Well, needless to say that Elsa and her other friend had to transfer out of the school because her parents were worried about her safety. Alright guys, that is it. That is all. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on Instagram if you're not already, just to show me that it's real, duh. I love you, my abducted humans, and I will see you in the next video.
It's time for a spooky story. So when this girl was 5 years old, she lived in a twin home, which is basically a duplex where two houses share a main wall. And to get to her parents' room, you had to walk through her room. One night around 2 a.m, her mom woke up to her screaming. She came running down the stairs to this 5-year-old daughter of hers standing in the hallway, looking dead ahead at nothing, saying, "Who is that man?" Obviously a little freaked out, her mom says, "What man?" So she proceeds to describe him. She says he's an older guy with brown coat, brown shoes, and a hat. So her mom goes and gets her dad, and they walk through the whole house trying to find an intruder, and they see nobody. And this is when it gets weird. So the next morning, the mom is talking to the neighbor who lives on the other side of the house in this duplex. And she starts to tell her what had happened the night before with her daughter and how she had seen this man in the house. The neighbor's jaw drops. And she says, "Oh my God, my son Ryan, who is also a 5-year-old, woke me up at the exact same time saying, 'Mom, Grandpa's standing in the hallway.'" I have goosebumps. Because Grandpa had been passed away for a year. She said she had chills even while typing out this story to me. If you have a spooky story that you want to send over, please, there's a link in my bio to a Google form. It is anonymous, I promise. Or you can add your contact information and I can tag you.
Okay, as promised, I have more ghost stories. If you have not heard the previous ones, I live in a 200-year-old house in New Orleans. It's in the French Quarter. It's beautiful. It's perfect. It's everything that you would expect a haunted house would look like in the French Quarter. So I have told a couple of other stories, and this is one that I want to tell from a couple of weeks ago. That was actually, I wasn't home when it happened. My boyfriend was. I will set the stage a little bit. This happened back in the, well, it happened all over the house, but he was sitting in the back in the office area. I'm going to insert a video right now so you can see what that looks like. It's right next to the bedroom. Okay, so this is the walk down the hallway. First, I will take you into the bedroom, the creepy bedroom if you haven't seen it. Sorry, my laundry's all piled right here. A little bit, this is like where we put all of our shit because I don't know what to do with this scary back bedroom. And then you go around the corner, there's Nina. You go around the corner, and then this is the back office. It's obviously not fixed up or decorated yet either, but this goes to the outside right here. So, and then remember this for later. I'm gonna turn around and show you what it looks like going down to the end of the hall here. So this happened about 3 weeks ago. Mina and I were at the dog park, and it was maybe 4:35, like kind of right before dusk, let's say. And he was working in the back office, and he said that, and I'll try to recount this as good as I can. It's his story, like I said. He was sitting in the back, 20 minutes or so. He is sitting there feeling like somebody is watching him. And I think we've all had that feeling before, and it's like a very, very weird feeling. But he was sitting there, and he just really couldn't shake that feeling that there was like a heaviness or somebody was watching him. And I've gotten that feeling a lot in the back of the house, but he said this was really, really intense. And so he kept trying to shake it, kept trying to shake it. It was getting more and more and more intense. He gets up to kind of like shake it off a little bit, comes back to the office, and he said that for the next like several minutes, he was sitting there and the feeling of like uneasiness was just growing and growing and growing. It was almost like a sense of dread. And he said he really felt like somebody was just standing, staring at him. And it was really, really odd. He said he'd almost never felt a feeling quite like that before, where somebody was not in the room with him, and it was just like this intense uneasiness. I'm gonna try to retell this like he told it. He gets up because the feeling of uneasiness is so uncomfortable. He goes and he's walking down the hallway, and I will show you what his view is right here. So he's like going to walk down the hallway, and he sees a shadow at the end of the hallway. And he said that like he knew logically that there was nobody in the house with him, but there was something at the end of the hallway. There was like just a shadow, and it stopped him in his tracks. And then he saw a flash of light that was so bright that it looked like fucking lightning. Like it looked like lightning, big flash, almost even like a camera had taken a picture. It startled him so much that he said he screamed and kind of like jumped. And so about, let's say 30 minutes later, I come home from the dog park. He's standing in the living room. He's like pacing around, and he's totally pale. And I'm like, what the fuck happened? And he explains everything to me and says that like, I don't know what this was, but there was like electricity. There was a flash of light. I really thought that it was lightning. It was really intense. Like it kind of filled up the whole room, and it like made him feel weird. This was actually the incident that caused me to, I bought some cameras, and I have set them up in the house. They've been running for only a couple of days now. And I am going to go back through them in the next couple of days and see if there's anything in there in the hallway, because I don't know what that is, right? And if anybody has ever heard a story like that where there was like a flash of electricity, I would love to know what you think about that, because what the fuck. Anyways, I'm gonna go through that camera footage though.
So I have a spooky story for you, and this one involves twin telepathy. Now, the idea of twin telepathy is very straightforward. It's the idea that twins, particularly identical twins, have the ability to communicate telepathically. So our story for the night focuses on a pair of two identical twin girls. So on the morning in question, the two twin girls and their brother are home alone. One of the twins comes downstairs for breakfast, turns on a CD that she has in the kitchen. We'll say it's something like Creed or Smash Mouth, very 90s, and it's super loud. Now the brother, who follows her into the kitchen, is basically like, whoa, this is entirely too loud. I need you to turn this down. And so this sister, being kind of an asshole, is giving him a hard time, but eventually does turn it down. And this is when she sits down at the table and starts plucking her eyebrows. So the brother sees her doing it and playfully asks what the occasion is. And of course, the sister that's plucking her eyebrows is like, oh, nothing, just want to look nice. And this is when the other twin, who happens to be sitting in the living room, says it's not for nothing. She's not trying to just look nice. She's going to a party. Now the twin that's at the table plucking her eyebrows shoots a glance over to her sister and calls her a rat. And this is when the older brother steps in and says, hey, Mom and Dad specifically told me no parties. There is literally not much else you guys cannot do, but you cannot have a party. This is when the sister, who's getting herself done up and ready to go out for the day, says that she's not having a party because Mom and Dad didn't say that they couldn't have a party. They said they couldn't have a party at the house. And technically, she's not breaking any rules because the party's not at their mom and dad's house. It's at one of her friend's house. Now, the brother, seeing the cleverness in his sister's argument, has no leg to stand on, and there's not really much he can do about it. So she continues to pluck her eyebrows, and then she gets to like one of these really tender spots towards like the bridge of your nose, and that's when the other sister, who's been chilling out in the living room thus far, starts to tear up and sneeze uncontrollably. And of course, the other sister looks over there, and this is when the other twin sister, after she finishes her sneezing spell, says, hey, can you chill out with that? Now, the sister who's sitting at the table plucking her eyebrows apologizes. And that's when she retorts back, well, yeah, hey, I'm gonna stop doing this, but what the hell happened in PE the other day? My shin was killing me. To which the sister who'd been chilling out in the living room says, yeah, my bad, sorry about that. I hit my leg on the bleachers and it got a really big bruise and a little bit of bleeding, so if that's what you felt, my bad. So the other brother, who's grown up with his twin sisters their entire life, is pretty familiar with this happening, but it's not something he'll ever get used to. It's always weird and it's always different. So the sister at the table finishes plucking her eyebrows and she gets up to leave for the day. She doesn't have any plans to come back that afternoon, but she does ask her sister if she can borrow the CD. And of course, her sister, being a good sister, says, yes, just make sure you bring it back in one piece. And after that, the sister leaves, and it's just the one who was sitting on the couch and the older brother. Now, the older brother takes a bit of pity on the one who's been left behind, and he says, well, I'll tell you what, since it's just me and you this afternoon, why don't we have a pizza party and we'll watch some basketball games and just chill out. Of course, the sister, being a homebody, is pretty okay with this, and that's the plan. So later that evening, the brother and sister are watching TV in the living room. The other twin had gone out for the day. They hadn't seen her for a while. And all of a sudden, while they're eating pizza, the brother turns up the TV, and the CD that was in the CD player starts playing really loud. We'll say it's something like All Stars or something. It's just obnoxiously loud. So the brother tells the twin sister who's at the house with him to go and turn it off. And so she does. She goes and turns it off. So he goes back to turning up the TV and the radio starts playing again, the same CD. And this is when the twin sister who's at the house starts to get a really bad vibe. So she walks over to the CD player to take the CD out, and there's no CD in there. The CD is gone. This is when the sister realizes that as the brother turns the TV volume up, the sound on the TV, or I guess the Smash Mouth All-Star song, gets louder and louder. And it goes the other way when he turns the volume down. And this is when she gets this really big knot in her stomach and she bowls over. She's in intense pain. And this is when she starts crying and she says, I know where she is. I know what happened to her. And she's breaking down right in front of the brother. Now the brother is like, this escalated super quickly. I don't know what the hell just happened, but he's trying to get his sister to communicate with him. And this is when the sister says, we need to get in the car and go. Now, the older brother is looking at her like, no, we need to go to the hospital if you're bowling over like this. And the sister is insistent, no, we need to go right now. Now, the brother, again, is really just having a gap right now because he's trying to figure out how he went from enjoying pizza and a basketball game to seeing his sister doubled over on the floor and listening to a CD play that hasn't been in the CD player all day. So he is thoroughly creeped out at this point. But because he wants his sister to chill out, he decides that he's going to heed her advice and they get in the car and they start driving. Now, the sister is still bowled over in pain at this point, but she's telling him to go certain directions. Take a left here on 5th Ave, go west on North Street. And eventually they get to a place in the road where they see a car. And this car has swerved off the road and is head first in a ditch. And this is when the sister says, that's the car right there. So as they approach the vehicle, the brother starts to get a knot in his stomach as well because he recognizes the car. It's his sister's car. This was the car that was supposed to take her to the party later that evening, and now it's headfirst in a ditch. So he stops his car, he rushes over to the vehicle, and his sister is in there. She's bleeding pretty badly, her head's banged up, but she is coherent, and she makes a moan as he opens the door. So he's grateful. Now, luckily, they do have their cell phones, and the EMTs come, they check the sister out, and they take her away. But before they do that, the twin who was in the accident says, I hoped you would hear me and I hoped you would come, and I'm so thankful you found me. Now, the brother's standing there looking at the both of them like they're crazy, and again, he's just nearly had a heart attack because the entire event was traumatic and super unfamiliar. But the twins look at him and say, it's just another day in the life. So anyways, I want to know what you guys are thinking about that. Let me know if you think this was sheer coincidence. And if so, how do you explain the CD player playing with no CD? And how do you justify the sister knowing where the other sister was going to be despite not having seen her all day? And of course, drop your thoughts in the comments. Let me know if you think this was a genuine instance of twin telepathy, or maybe it was just a bond so strong between the twins that the other could feel the other one's pain legitimately. Anyways, drop your thoughts in the comments, and I will see you guys in my next video.
Before I tell the scary story, I want you to say a little prayer of protection. Whoever you pray to, Say one. And I'm going to try not to use my hands as much. So this story is about Danielle, and we've talked about Danielle before, and I think that Danielle has a sixth sense 100%. In this story, Danielle was actually at her grandma's house, and her grandma actually lived on that 78 acres of land that we talked about in my other story. One night, Danielle was getting ready for bed around 8 o'clock. She said she was a sleepy kid and she liked to go to bed early. So after Danielle is done putting her pajamas on, she actually goes into the living room, and there's actually a bird cage in the living room. She said she was looking at the bird cage when all of a sudden she looks over, and in the corner of her eye, she sees a dark shadow standing in the corner of the room. Her grandma had an African parrot who loved to talk, and she said that it sounded like it was talking. She said usually he talks to himself because he's a bird, but this time it sounded like he was actually talking to someone else, almost having a conversation with a person who wasn't really there. It really freaked her out. She goes to her grandma and she tells her grandma what she saw, and her grandma's like, listen, it's probably nothing. He's a bird. So as Danielle likes to do, it seems, she brushed it off. She then goes to bed, and in the middle of the night, she wakes up at about 1 o'clock in the morning, and she can't move, but she knows that she's awake. She can move her eyes, but nothing else. She said that she was a little confused, and she's looking around the room, and she sees that it's really dark, but she notices that there's a part of the room that is extra dark. She starts to get really freaked out that she can't move, and she's like, what is going on? When all of a sudden she looks over and she sees a figure of a tall man, like 15 feet tall, she says. He's wearing a black trench coat and a top hat. The man then slowly starts walking over towards her, and he is tall. So he is a skinny, tall man walking towards Danielle. She can't move, she can't scream, she can't do anything. Then leans over and he whispers in her ear, and she said it was in a voice that she had never heard before, like the weirdest sounding voice she had ever heard. Surprisingly, he whispers in her ear and says,
everything is going to be okay. Don't be scared. Remember this date, September 14th.
She said that that day was actually September 13th. The next day would be September 14th. He then just disappears, and Danielle tries her hardest to fall back asleep. This girl has got some guts, man. She can't really fall back asleep, but she does get a couple hours of sleep, and the next morning she wakes up and she tells her grandma. I just want to stop and say that I personally believe that she had a sleep paralysis moment. What happens next really freaks me out because it makes me think that sleep paralysis is real. I keep getting these stories of this sleep paralysis turning into reality. But I digress. The next day, her mom comes and picks her up, and she goes home, and what does she do? She wants to go play out in the trees. So she goes outside and she plays in her tree. She's sitting on one of the branches on the tree when all of a sudden she gets this really creepy feeling like something is wrong. All of a sudden, it feels like the branch is giving out a little bit underneath her. She said to keep in mind that this branch was huge, and she was only like 75 pounds at the time, so there was no way that she should have been falling down on this branch. All of a sudden, she feels a hand on her back, and she feels a little push. And then boom, a harder push, and she falls to the ground. Her mom was actually outside. She saw this happen and she called an ambulance. Danielle ended up breaking her collarbone and having to have surgery. So Danielle is in the hospital, and they have to give her in order to put her under, in order to operate on her shoulder. She said that she was really scared, but she was in the hospital and she felt like she was out, and all of a sudden she looks in the corner of the room, and who does she see? She sees that man again. She calls him the Hat Man. And then she feels like someone is holding her hand, and she looks over, and it's the Hat Man holding her hand. And in that same voice, he whispers again,
everything is going to be okay. You are okay.
She obviously ended up being okay, but Danielle said that this was not the last time that she saw the Hat Man. She actually saw him multiple times, and every single time she would see the Hat Man, something terrible would happen, like the next day. For instance, she saw him out of the corner of her eye one day, and the next day her family dog that they had had for a really long time passed away. And then another time she saw him out of the corner of her eye, her aunt passed away the next day. So this story sounds creepy to me because of the way that he looks, and I'm a little confused by that. This is obviously a good spirit, we hope, but it sounds like it's some type of like Grim Reaper or something. If you guys have any thoughts on this, please drop it in the comments. My next story is going to be pretty scary. This one was a little lighthearted, so we're going to switch back to a little darker after that. I appreciate your submissions so much. Do not stop sending me your scary stories, you guys. Danielle also has other stories, and her mom has stories too. So if you guys want to hear those, then drop it in the comments, because I feel like this family just has a sixth sense, like the whole family. There's an email in my bio. If you guys want to email me there, that's where you email me your scary stories. My name is Kaisa. I tell scary stories every single day. If you like that, please follow for more. Engage from the bottom up, and I will see you guys in the next one. Love you. Have a spooky night.